Oh man, this is so awesome. So the Chinese immigrants built these tunnels so that they could come down here and just smoke opium. I mean, there's a lot of spider webs.
Williams is about 2 hours and 40 minutes north of Phoenix, Arizona. It's known as the gateway to the Grand Canyon. In fact, it's just 1 hour south of Grand Canyon National Park. In the early 19th century, mountain men began to push west in search of the plentiful game where the fur trade was at an all-time high. One of these men was William Shirley Williams, aka Old Bill. After the Civil War, land speculators anticipating the construction of the westward-bound railroad began to make claims on numerous areas in northern Arizona, including what would soon become Williams. In 1881, the first post office was established, and on September 1, 1882, the railroad finally arrived. Williams, like so many other towns of the Old West, gained a reputation as a rough and rowdy settlement filled with saloons, brothels, gambling houses, and yes, opium dens. I'll have more on that later in the video. In 1901, the Santa Fe Railroad extended its line from Williams to the Grand Canyon, making the town the true gateway to the Grand Canyon. In 1926, Route 66 was completed through Williams, which spurred several new businesses along the highway. It was this increased automobile traffic that would eventually shut down the rail service in Williams in 1968. Williams became the very last Route 66 town to be bypassed by I-40 on October 13, 1984. Well, just a few short years later, on September 17, 1989, the Grand Canyon Railway was put back to work shuttling travelers from Williams to the Grand Canyon's South Rim. Williams' entire downtown area has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places.
All right, so apparently I was just told by a local, one of the guys that works at one of the bike shops here in town, that there are a system of underground tunnels here in Williams that I never knew about. And that's kind of fascinating to me. I asked him how deep they were. He said some of them go down as far as 60 feet. And I said, well, what were they used for? Slave trade, contraband, running opium, all this type of stuff. And apparently some of these old buildings, they still have these shafts that go deep into the ground in these tunnels, and they're like 8 feet wide or 8 feet tall, and they're still there. Now some of the businesses have filled them up with gravel because they didn't want anything to do with the history of these tunnels. But how about that? Who would have ever known about that? I just happened to ask a local guy, and he told me all about it. Now, he said the people over here at the information center may know more about it, and they may give me a little bit more information. So I'm gonna go over there and check it out. All right, so right now, I am in search of somebody that's gonna give me more information about these underground tunnels. I went to the information center, and they kind of held back. They weren't real open about the tunnels, and they wouldn't give me a name of anybody that might know something. So I'm gonna walk the streets, I'm gonna ask people, and I'm gonna get information about these tunnels. All right, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. All right, so I did go into the Sultana Bar, and it's been around forever. They do have tunnels in the basement, but they've all been sealed off. So they wouldn't let me go down, of course, and they really didn't want to talk. They didn't want to come on camera and talk about it. But we're going to continue our search and see if we can't find someone who's willing to take us into their basement and show us these tunnels. Now, the basement of the Sultana was actually a speakeasy, and I did find out that the tunnels were built by the Chinese immigrants that were building the railroads out here in the West. And so they built the tunnels so that they could move around from place to place, because they weren't really liked back then by the Americans out in this area. So they were using those tunnels to get to place. And then they actually started using them to smuggle in opium and the drug trade. So very fascinating. Now, I did find out that there is a cemetery not too far up on the west side of the town that has one area that's designated to the Chinese immigrants. So I'm going to make my way up there and check it out. So there's some, I guess, folklore. You know, the story that the gentleman was telling me about the Chinese immigrants building the tunnels underneath the town of Williams. There's some old folklore that involves Lake Tahoe and the Chinese immigrants as well. And I don't know if it's true or not. These are things that I've just read about and heard about. And so back when the Chinese immigrants were building the railroads out west, the United States government had a contract with them that once the railroads were finished, and I believe this is how the story goes, but once the railroads were finished, then the US government would pay the Chinese immigrants a pretty healthy sum of money. And so when the railroads were finished or near complete, the rumor is, or the folklore goes, that the United States government reneged on their deal. They welched on the deal. And so they had to get rid of the evidence. So they had to get rid of the immigrants. And so again, the story goes that the United States government executed a lot of these Chinese immigrants. And what they did to get rid of the bodies was they put them into Lake Tahoe. They dumped them in Lake Tahoe. Now, they didn't realize it, but at the time, well, they didn't realize it at the time, I should say, but Lake Tahoe, because it is so cold, it's basically a glacier or snow-capped mountain-fed lake. Even in the summertime, when I was up there, it was the water was 62 degrees. And so the lake is so deep and so cold that there's no organisms that can live in that lake. And plus, with the cold temperatures, it actually preserved the bodies of the Asian immigrants. And people know because of the clothes they're wearing, the clothes and everything is completely 100% preserved. And so the folklore goes that Jacques Cousteau got a group together and wanted to go see what was at the bottom of Lake Tahoe. And so he got a sub and they dove to the bottom. I don't know if it was a sub or maybe they just went diving. I don't know, but it's so deep. I would imagine they would need some kind of vessel. But they went to the bottom and they found these perfectly preserved bodies. And Jacques Cousteau and his team took photographs and video of everything while they were down there. And once they got back to the top of the lake and got out, he decided that the country wasn't ready to hear that story. The country wasn't ready to see those pictures. So all the evidence of all the photographs were destroyed. Anyway, that's the story. I find it fascinating. You can read about that. You can just Google it and read about it online, but that's how the story goes. Again, I have no way to prove it. Do your own research. All right, guys, well, I took a pretty long walk around. I did find one grave that looked like it belonged to one of the Chinese immigrants, but I couldn't. Some of these graves are so deteriorated and dilapidated, and you can tell no one takes care of it. It's quite sad, actually. But I couldn't find more than that one headstone, so I don't know exactly where it's located, but I think we get the picture. I am heading back into Williams, and I'm gonna find a place to eat because I'm starving, and we'll see what we find.
Yeah, they call me the breeze. I keep blowing down the road. Call me the breeze. I keep blowing down the road.
Hi guys. I was wondering if there's anybody here that's willing to share the history of the tunnels under the building.
I don't have any history of the tunnels, no.
They may have more information
Okay.
about that, yeah. Then they have like the local police there that could probably maybe share some information also.
Oh, it's a... Oh, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. All right, well, the search continues. All right, so nobody in town really seems to want to be sharing information about these underground tunnels. The minute I mention it, they act like they don't know anything. And, you know, their buildings that they're working in are built on top of these tunnels. So there's got to be somebody in town that can give me a history of these tunnels and be willing to talk about it. But I don't know, you know, maybe it just has such a dark history on this town. Maybe it's something, you know, I don't know, this is just speculation, but maybe it's something that they want to put behind them. Maybe it's something that they've agreed upon kind of as a town, as local folk, not to really talk about it anymore. But these people, they told me to come to this place over here and and ask them about it. They said that there's a historian at the so hopefully I'm not getting overly excited, but hopefully somebody here will have information and be willing to share. So let's check it out. All right, well, we're in luck. I'm at one of the local establishments, and the bartender is actually going to take me and show me. Yeah.
It's scary down there. Watch out for them big rats.
Yeah, is that right? Do you care if I leave my tripod here?
Sure, first step's a doozy.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So I would suggest just hold on here and here or here.
Okay.
Holy shit.
As you go down, don't bump your head.
Okay.
Check it out. Is it safe?
Yeah, this is.
You gotta sit on the ground, get in there.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll be down there once.
All right, yeah, this is wild.
This goes right up front of the bar.
My lights aren't working down there.
Okay. Okay, so this is where the tunnel would be. Back here. Okay, let me get my light going if I can. Oh man, this is so awesome. This is legitimately one of the tunnels, so I can get back here. This is, oh, guys, this is phenomenal. And I'm not gonna, I promised them I wouldn't tell them where this actual location is. But this is one of the tunnels that was built by the Chinese immigrants. And what this lady was telling me here is that the tunnels, the Chinese immigrants were not permitted to be up on the streets. And so, you know, they just weren't liked. Now there's a lot of spiders and stuff back here, but this tunnel goes way, way back. I wish maybe you could see it or not, I don't know. But it's very moldy and very damp. I don't feel comfortable going much further than I already have because it's very, very low. So they would have opium dens down here, and the Chinese, again, they weren't allowed to be up on the streets, so the Chinese immigrants built these tunnels so that they could come down here and just smoke opium. And so I'm sure a lot of the locals did too. Once the locals found out, they would come down here and join the Chinese, and these tunnels led to bordellos. These tunnels they had speakeasys down here, so that because it was during prohibition times, and so they would sit down here and drink illegally and like I said, smoke opium. So this is absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe persistence beats resistance, and I was very persistent. I just wanted to come down, or I wanted to witness this for myself. And let me see if I can get a little further back. I mean, you can hear the water dripping. There's bugs. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of spider webs. I don't know if there's any, holy cow, this is crazy. I don't know if there's any black widows down here. There's probably a very good chance of black widows or rats, or God only knows. So I am gonna get out of here, and this has just been unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable that I had this opportunity to check this out. Wow. Thank you so much.
You bet.
This is unbelievable.
It's kind of crazy, yeah?
What a part of history, huh?
Yeah.
Rebel, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. You have a great day. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Take care. Guys, that was phenomenal. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I finally met the right person at the right time who was willing to allow me to go down into those tunnels. I'm telling you, the smell, the creepy feeling you have down there, unbelievable. Unbelievable, guys. Now, I'm gonna go try to find this red feather gentleman, and he's supposed to be a historian, and he knows a ton about the tunnels. So I'm gonna go try to find him and hopefully get a lot of cool information. I was told to speak to you about the history of the tunnels, or the opium dens, or however they're referred to. And but first, I kind of want you to plug your store a little bit. Tell me about your store and what you have to offer.
Well, it's basically my art gallery. It's all my work. You know, I do all the leather work. The t-shirts are my designs. I make the hats, custom hats.
But so tell me a little bit about the kind of the history of the tunnels, or how they started, or why, or what they're all about.
Well, they're not really. I don't know if there was really. It was kind of. That's why most everything that we know is like opium dens, just because it was frowned upon, or you know, kind of on the illegal side. So it was kind of a place that, in hiding, to go do it. You know?
So were they run by the Chinese immigrants?
For the most part, yeah. A lot of stuff that's been found has been opium bottles that were imported from China, some pipes and stuff like that. They were the prevalent builders of the railroad.
Right.
You know, that's why they were here.
Yeah.
Our cemetery's got a pretty good section of.
Yeah, I was actually up there and I couldn't find the section.
Yeah, it's kind of grown over and
Gotcha.
back in the weeds, I think. But that's that. I don't know. I can't say personally if any of the tunnels were connected. They might have been, you know, from business to business or whatever.
Okay.
They might have been. Most of the time, you know, back in the day, those were cellars and someplace cold to keep food and stores and whatever. But I know John Holst, when he was redoing the Red Garter, you know, that he unearthed a bunch of that stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there were opium vials and stuff like that, and that was the Red Garter was a cat house back in the day.
Yeah, so that was my question too. So
That
some
was a
people
brothel.
say, some people say that these tunnels also may have led to bordellos or cat houses.
Right, and then
You
it
know.
could have been, like your speakeasys back in the,
Yeah,
evolved into that probably too. Well, everything that faced the railroad back in the day, that was the red light district. So that was the brothel, and there was actually a couple of them in there. So that was the red light district. That because it faced the tracks, it was, This town was built by cowboys and railroad men and loggers. It's an old cowboy town.
it's kind of the Wild West, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was shootouts in the Sultana. That was one of the first liquor licenses in Arizona after prohibition. All right.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you bet.
All right, so I had an absolutely amazing time in Williams today. When I first showed up here, I knew I was going to talk about the bordellos, the red light district. I knew I was going to talk about the Grand Canyon Railway, and there were some other things that I knew I was going to talk about. I had no idea that I was going to be talking about the tunnels. I had no idea they even existed. I have been here to Williams several times. We normally come through here to go to the Grand Canyon, and I've taken the Grand Canyon Railway to the Grand Canyon a couple times. And I've been to these restaurants and I've been around town. I had no idea that these underground tunnels and underground caverns or whatever you want to call them existed. And so today, because I was persistent and I really worked hard, I talked to a lot of people, I asked a lot of questions, I finally met the right person, and Rebel was fantastic. She opened up that hatch for me, allowed me to go downstairs, and allowed me to visit. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I've had a blast here, and I think I'm definitely gonna come back. Guys, you gotta get off the interstates, get off the freeways, and go visit small town America. I'm the small town tourist. Take care.